Welcome to Bible Prayers and Untold Stories, where every whisper verse is truth, and every story brings light to the soul. Let us journey through the sacred words and uncover the wisdom hidden in prayer. There are souls born not to live long, but to drag the cross into a new era. There are people who are small in body, but carry on their shoulders the destiny of millions of believers. In 1878, in a Rome torn between tradition and industry, a 68-year-old man was elected pope. No one thought he would live long, but heaven chose. And when heaven chose, time lost its meaning. This is not just a story of a pope, but a journey of light in the darkness, a moment of history intersecting with the supernatural, a prayer recorded in light, sound, and life. The 19th century needed someone who kept faith in the darkness. The 21st century needs someone who brings light into the abyss of modernity. Between the two names, separated by 122 years, Leo XIII and Leo XIV, there's not just a distance of time, but a spiritual bridge between past and future, tradition and innovation, spirituality and justice. Born in 1810, Leo XIII was the first pope to see the industrialized century washing away faith from a human heart. But instead of retreating, he forged ahead with Rerum Novarum. He laid the foundations of Catholic social doctrine, defending workers, speaking out against exploitation, but also rejecting atheism and revolutionary violence. He opened the Vatican secret archives, founded the Vatican Observatory, and engaged in dialogue with science because he believed true faith does not fear the truth. More importantly, he was the first pope to be filmed and recorded, making himself the first window of light to usher the church into the media age. When Robert Prevost, an American and Augustinian monk living among the poor in Peru, chose the name Leo XIV, he was not just honoring a predecessor, he was sending a sacred signal to the world. I will continue on the path of light, the path that Leo XIII opened with his courage, humility, and vision. In today's world, where humanity is reeling from artificial intelligence, disoriented by war and division, and faith faltering, Leo XIV appears as an echo of an old age, speaking in a new language. Both popes enter their pontificate at a time of crisis of faith. Both come from a monastic tradition, humble, devoted, not seeking power. Both choose to dialogue with the times rather than close themselves off to the world. And both carry within them a mission to make the church a light in turbulent times. If Leo XIII was a sower in the industrial storm, then Leo XIV is the reaper in the digital field. If Leo XIII spoke in a Latin voice echoing from a primitive camera, then Leo XIV can use the language of AI, podcasts, the metaverse to preach the same old gospel. The church never stands still. From Leo XIII to Leo XIV is a journey of transformation without losing its soul. Like a candlelight, even though it sways in the wind of the times, still kept the fire burning. And now, that fire has been passed on, not to burn, but to light the way. Pope Leo XIV, born Robert Francis Prevost, was elected the 267th Pope of the Catholic Church on May 8, 2025, becoming the first American Pope in the Church's nearly 2,000-year history. Born on September 14, 1955 in Chicago, Illinois, United States, to a family of French, Italian, and Spanish descent. He was the youngest of 3 children and grew up in a devout Catholic environment in the suburbs of Dalton. He joined the Augustinian order and was ordained a priest in 1982. He served for many years in Peru, where he became known as the Saint of the North for his humanitarian efforts, especially in assisting the poor and responding to natural disasters. He served as Superior General of the Augustinian Order from 2001 to 2013 and was appointed Bishop of Chiclayo in Peru in 2015. In 2023, he was appointed Prefect of the Congregation for Bishops by Pope Francis and was elevated to the rank of Cardinal. The choice of the papal name Leo XIV recalls previous popes named Leo, especially Leo XIII, who issued the encyclical Rerum Novarum on social justice. This suggests that the new pope may continue to emphasize social issues and justice during his pontificate, vision and direction, reconciliation and dialogue. In his first speech, Pope Leo XIV emphasized peace, dialogue, and evangelization, reflecting his desire to build a church that is inclusive and close to all people. Continuing the legacy of Pope Francis, he is seen as continuing Pope Francis' reforms, especially his focus on social justice, environmental protection, and care for the poor. Social views, although he tends to be more conservative on some issues, such as same-sex marriage. Pope Leo XIV maintains a moderate stance and emphasizes tolerance and mercy. The election of an American as Pope has caused a global stir. In the United States, many political and religious leaders sent congratulations, expressing pride and hope for a new reign full of hope and renewal. Pope Leo XIV represents a historic turning point in the Catholic Church, not only because of his national origins, but also because of his vision that combines tradition and innovation. With his rich experience and dedication, he is expected to lead the Church through the challenges of the present and toward a hopeful future. In the darkness of the Sistine Chapel, the dim light from candles illuminates the faces of aging cardinals, silently praying, writing their names on ballots. Each stroke of the pen is like a stroke of fate carved into marble. Amid the whispers of power and doubt, a name that seemed forgotten is called again. Gioacchino Vincenzo Raphael Luigi Pecci, that a sickly, silent cardinal, living quietly like a shadow behind the Vatican door. Cardinal Pecci was praying alone, the frail old man, his hands trembling as he held the rosary, his eyes looking up at the statue of the Virgin Mary. There was a knock on the door. A young monk entered, handing a small piece of paper. "Scroll," the monk whispered. "Your Eminence, you have been chosen." He paused, his heart beating slightly, his eyes filled with tears. There was no glory, just a sacred silence, as if he had known this all along. A call, not from the world, but from heaven. People called it a surprise, but believers called it the will of God. While the world was changing rapidly, when the throne of St. Peter was swaying between the waves of atheism and industrialization, God did not choose the young, the heroic. He chose the forgotten. The bell rang. Incense filled the air of St. Peter's Basilica. Gioacchino Pecci stepped out, small, thin, wearing the white papal robes. In the light pouring down from the dome, his image faded like a Holy Spirit guided by an invisible hand. He had come to the throne not to rule, but to witness, to bear witness to an age that had lost its faith, and to draw the light of the Bible through the darkness of rationalism. People revolted. Factories smoked. Newspapers of the time hailed science as the new religion. Interspersed were scenes of the Vatican withdrawing, isolated, losing its temporal power. The Church had lost its earthly kingdom, but now it was time to regain its spiritual kingdom. And to do that, a man was needed who was not tied to the throne, but to prayer. The bell rang out. The screen dimmed, leaving only a line of text in the darkness. People see an old man. God sees a bridge. As the world was rebuilt with steam and steel, the human soul was crushed under its own gears. People called it progress. But for Pope Leo XIII, it was a cry that no one wanted to hear. Leo XIII sat at his desk, the flickering candlelight shining on the white paper. The wind from the open window blew in, shaking the manuscript. His thin hand held the pen, black ink dripping like blood on the paper. He was writing, not a hymn, but a document that would shake the Church and the political world. Scroll, the words emerged from the page. Rerum novarum, new things. He did not need a sword. He needed only truth. In an age of injustice and exploitation, he wrote a holy declaration for the poor. Workers reading newspapers, priests preaching in factories, women praying by their babies' cradles. Interspersed with images of Leo XIII writing each line of Rerum novarum. In the background was the sound of machinery mixed with Latin chants. The worker deserved his pay. The family must be respected. The poor are not a burden. They are the soil where compassion grows. With Rerum novarum, he gave birth to Catholic social doctrine, building a bridge between the cross and the factory. Between the light of the gospel and the darkness of the soulless market point, two worlds appear side by side. On one side, industry, machines, urban atheism. On the other, churches, candles, prayer, compassion. Between these two streams, Leo XIII walks in the silent light, belonging to neither world, but bearing witness to both. though only 5 feet tall. His soul towers above the dome of St. Peter's. He is the voice of justice who knows how to pray, a prophet in times of chaos, a keeper of the sacred flame in an age that knows only electric light. But justice is only the beginning, truth, wisdom, and light still waiting at other gates. A quiet night scene in the Vatican, a long corridor filled with darkness. Leo XIII, now an elderly pope, dressed in white, holding an oil lamp. Silently he approached a large stone door carved with ancient reliefs. The guards avoided his gaze. A young monk, trembling, handed him an old key. There are doors that do not open by force. They open only when a soul is humble enough to believe that the truth is not meant to be hidden, but to be illuminated. The key turned, the click echoed as if touching the seventh heaven. Gold-dusted documents, leather manuscripts, handwritten letters from ancient civilizations. Some were sealed with red wax. Leo XIII stepped into the middle of the room, his hand brushing lightly over an ancient Hebrew scripture. The wind from a window blew a page. The candlelight reflected the words, Veritas Domini Mene in Eternum. The truth of God endures forever. For centuries, this place has been sealed, like a tomb of knowledge. But Leo XIII was not afraid of knowledge, because when faith is as solid as a rock, no words can make it collapse. He opened that sacred treasure to all scholars, regardless of faith, regardless of school, as if to say, if the light truly comes from God, it will illuminate even those who have gone astray. A rotating glass dome opens. Jesuits are observing the sky through a telescope. In the distance, Leo XIII is standing on the parapet, looking up. The stars are twinkling, like the eyes of God silently observing the universe. In 1879, when people said, religion is superstition, science is the light, Leo XIII did not turn his back. He looked up, and when he looked up, he saw God not only in the Bible, but also in the orbits of stars. The Church does not fear the heavens, for the heavens too are the work of God. A page of the Bible opened next to an astronomical image. The Latin text from Genesis merged with the image of the Milky Way. Leo XIII was the one who held the keys, not only to the treasury of words, but to the gate where faith and wisdom kneel together. As he opened both the archives and the heavens, he was saying to the world, truth does not fear being exposed to light, for the true light will never retreat. From now on, the Church no longer hides from the new age, but stands in its midst with the light of heaven and the light of wisdom. The dim light of a turn-of-the-century camera shone through the Vatican trees. A white figure emerged. Pope Leo XIII, a thin figure, walking slowly toward the center of the garden. He raises his hand in blessing towards a strange object, the movie camera. The film is shaky, blurred, but in each silvery grain, there is something immortal. In 1896, for the first time in history, the light of the new age touches a church, and the Pope, the ancient representative of a 1,000-year-old faith, does not shy away. He stands still in the middle of the film to show future generations that faith is not limited by time. It lives, it moves, it knows how to smile at the camera. Slow motion black and white comedy. Leo XIII raises his hand in blessing. But the camera does more than record movement. It records the soul of the last dynasty of the old world, advancing into the world of images, telegraphs, and industrial lightning. When his arm was raised, it was not only a blessing for a people, but a greeting to an era that was about to arise. An era in which people began to trust machines more than prayers. And in that moment, the Church had time to engrave its name in light. A quiet room. The bronze phonograph was prepared. Engineers set the wax cylinder. The Pope, now 93 years old, stepped forward, bowed his head slowly, and began to speak. His voice, hoarse but clear, echoed through the light noise. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum. It was the sound of a soul born in 1810, resonating in the 21st century. A man, with his voice, who had transcended time as he had transcended the cross. And for the first time, the Pope's voice echoed not only in the church, but also in the wax cylinder, in the loudspeakers, in the ears of all mankind, the slow-motion phonograph, and at the same time the image of a flickering candle beside the Blessed Sacrament. An artificial light, a divine light, merged. The image of Leo XIII was printed in newspapers, then on film, then broadcast through loudspeakers. He was not afraid of modernity. For Leo XIII, modernity was not the enemy of faith, but the bearer of prayer further, the instrument for the gospel to touch the place where machines had taken over. A man born when Napoleon was alive, but who sent his voice to the generation of spaceships. He is not the shadow of an old dynasty, but the light of a new gate where faith and technology bow together before the truth. A simple room. The pale yellow light from the last candle flickered. Pope Leo XIII lay on a dark wooden bed, a thin blanket covering his chest. Beside him, an open diary, the last line left unfinished, like a breath interrupted halfway through. He had lived more than 93 springs, and through each season, he not only witnessed the changes of the world, but quietly guided the church through each threshold of the era. But even the most enduring light had to close its eyes once. The writing was shaky but clear. The last prayers, thoughts, and prayers were interwoven with the image of his coughing, his arms shaking slightly, but his eyes still bright, still riding like a soldier holding a post until the last second. Scroll on the screen appeared the last handwritten line. Fiat voluntas tua, thy will be done. The world calls it a testament, but in the kingdom of the Spirit, it is the last of a consecrated life. It is a hot summer morning. The door of the room is ajar. The monks stand in silence. An old doctor wipes away tears. Leo XIII opens his eyes slightly, whispering in a hoarse but serene voice. Leo XIII whispering, I have lived long enough. He exhaled softly, almost imperceptibly. The light from the window fell on his face, then receded. There was no crying, only the sacred silence, as at the beginning of the conclave 25 years ago. But this time, the door that had just closed was not just a life, but an era. The news spread. Church bells rang across Europe. People bowed their heads. Scientists, philosophers, politicians, and priests all mourned, as if a spiritual flame had been drawn from the world. When he left, not only the church shook, but the whole world seemed to stop, to listen to the last echo of a soul who had lived for the light. He left between the two sides of the century, like a cross standing on the river of time, connecting the ancient and the modern, the divine and the human mind. The Vatican gardens, where the first film ever recorded his silhouette. Golden sunlight shone on the lawn empty. A white bird flies by. On a black background, the words appear. Dove. Leo XIII, born in 1810, died in 1903. He was not only Pope of the Church, but a prophet of the world to come. May each of us live like him, not fleeing the times, but blessing them with the light of faith.